For this month's Carp Academy live-in session, you join us down in deepest, darkest rural Suffolk. We're at the fantastic 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗃 Lake, which is on the 𝗵𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗵𝗃, and it's a very, very busy, very prolific and beautifully managed and kept club venue. Here at Carp Academy, we do like to demonstrate angling on a wide variety of venues. So this is the first club venue that we've been to, and not quite sure what to expect. I have fished it a couple of times before, so it's not completely raw to me. But the lake itself, incredibly scenic, beautiful looking, well-kept lake, which has got some old looking history around its banks and certainly in the stock themselves too. I caught a carp here in March when I was doing a little bit of work, which was, I think it's an old 𝗲𝗍𝗃𝗃𝗃 strain carp, incredible looking fish, maybe 40 years old. That fish was a heavily plated mirror carp, which, yeah, the sort of carp that you happily walk across broken glass for. So there are some very special ones in here. The lake itself, probably about 5 acres or so, something like that. There's a big island in the middle, and it's split up into bays and peninsulas and lily pads and things like that. The water can be quite clear, and it is pretty clear here at the moment, and the weed growth can be prolific as well. It's dying off now. I mean, last night we had some proper cold weather, 3 degrees at home, so touching air frost temperatures, or ground frost I should say, and things have really cooled down. We're blessed with high pressure, really warm sunny days, but the nights are plummeting away to really serious depths now, considering it's only the middle of October. So given the weather, I think we're going to be up against it. We've got super high pressure. It's nearly 1,030 millibars. We're going to be talking about the effect that that has on fish and their behaviour and things that we should be doing to maybe try and get a bite when it's like that. The bite times will probably be nocturnal, as we found, or as we have found on other sessions at this time of year. That's pretty much standard, but there may be opportunities here to try and tempt a daytime bite. So we're going to be looking at that, maybe with some margin fishing, maybe even a bit of stalking. The sun is very warm, you know, compared to a few hours ago. It's probably, you know, it's blasting us now. It's lovely. So always remember, the carp are cold-blooded, and they will seek out areas where they can really utilise that warmth to the greatest benefit. And when you follow a really cold night where the temperatures have plummeted down, they'll be feeling a bit of a chill, bit of a shiver on. So you do find them very often migrating into areas, little sun traps, to take advantage of that warmth. So we've got 48 hours at our disposal, 2 nights, and I think we should be able to nick a bite. I hope I haven't just cursed myself. These club waters can be tricky. They see an awful lot of pressure, but at the same time, there's a good stock of fish in here, and I don't know how many there are, probably well over 100 fish. So in a smallish lake, I'm confident we should be able to get on them at some time, maybe pending nocturnal manoeuvres, and hopefully we can tempt a bite. There's a massive fire being sparked up down there. I don't know if you can hear that crackling away. It's autumn. The management down here, Nick, it does a great job of landscaping the place and keeping everything looking nice. He's obviously burning off some dead wood. We have got a railway line running along next to us, so I'm not going to stop talking whenever a train comes, but just be aware of that, you know. Although we're out in the middle of nowhere, and we really are in a beautiful rolling countryside here, we have got a train line, and I smell that wood smoke from Nick's fire. It smells really autumnal now. It reminds me of when I had a log fire at home. It's that time of year when that really does you good. So we're going to get into the session. We're going to start off with a bit of boilie fishing. I will talk to you about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and also, of course, where I'm doing it, and that's coming up next. Unlike most of our Carp Academy live-in session films, I haven't gone into this stone cold. Got to be honest with you, this is a local one, close to my home, short journey for a change. Sorry Ian, I know you had a long one. And it's somewhere that I have fished before. But not only that, it's somewhere that I was able to visit yesterday so that I could get a little bit of an idea of what was going on. I think most guys who are fishing club venues tend to fish club venues close to their home, so this is probably a situation that is familiar to most of you watching this who will fish busy club type venues. I was able to come over yesterday afternoon. I had a spare afternoon, so I came over with my gear with the intent on hopefully working out where the fish were and then maybe having a little go for them, and as a little taster, a little build up, put a bit of bait in hopefully in preparation for today. So I came over yesterday, I got over about lunchtime. Very, very similar day to, actually not similar, identical day to today. Very, very strong bright sunshine, crystal blue sky, not one single cloud. So I did a couple of laps looking for the fish, and I didn't actually see any fish in the water, which surprised me quite a lot. I had Polaroids on, got up a couple of trees, but the fish weren't right in the upper layers. What I did notice, and it was very distinct, and this is all part of watercraft, was that as I walked around the lake, there were very, very clearly areas of the lake which were much more clouded to other parts of the lake. And it seemed to me that the lake was pretty much split in two halves. So the island behind me, the other side of the island, the water in that half of the lake was markedly clearer than the water in this half of the lake. So that gave me a sniff of the hunt, and that was the first sign that I had that that something might be going on in this half. So I then devoted the next hour or two that I had to walking and looking around this zone. And the next thing that I noticed, after obviously the colour of the water, was the direction of the sun. Now this is very, very key, particularly in the spring and particularly in the autumn, when the carp are all about water temperature. We've got the sun in the southern sky, albeit lower than it has been all summer, but it's hitting that far margin hard. It's blasting right in there. And when you go round and stand there, it's another 2 or 3 degrees warmer than it is over here. The carp, being cold-blooded creatures, will definitely be fully aware of that, and they will take full advantage too. And it was as no surprise to me that when I did see a fish show, one has just rolled out there behind me near the island, when I did see a fish show, it was exactly where I expected it to be, on the south-facing margin in the area of the lake that was coloured. Over the next 2 or 3 hours, I saw several fish show in that vicinity, so I flicked out a couple of rods just with singles, dotted a few baits around and fished there. I didn't have much time. I had to get off and do the school run, but it was really just a recce just to get a feel. And there was no doubt in my mind that the majority of the fish were in this area. So whilst I was fishing, I got the throwing stick out and I probably spread about a kilo, 3/4 kilo to a kilo of 16mm Manila Active around the area where I saw the shows. That was really largely in preparation for today, but whilst I had the rods out, it was a good time to do it. I thought, you never know, I might get a bite. I didn't get the bite I wanted, but only fished for a couple of hours. I was packed up and in the van and off home a short while after. Fast forward to today, after that freezing, brutally cold night, I got down here just before it got light and stood in the gloom watching and listening. It was frigid, I can tell you. The fish, to my surprise, weren't showing at all. There was no activity, there were no frothy sets of bubbles. The lake seemed dead, and I was worried that maybe the fish weren't in this area anymore and they had moved somewhere else. And just as the sun started to peek through the trees, the fish did start showing. Unfortunately for me, they were exactly where they had been the previous afternoon. Of course, in my mind, I'm thinking they've had a half a kilo, 3/4 kilo, I should say half a small bag of Manila to feed on, hopefully through the night, and hopefully be rooting around looking for a bit more. I don't normally ever get fishing before the cameras turn up, but I thought, you know what, I might be able to nick one early. So I put a couple of stringers out in the area where they were showing, and then made myself a coffee, watched the day get lighter, and a couple more fish showed around the area. Definitely the right place to be in at the moment, although I should point out that last year when I came down when it was cold, they were all in the other half of the lake. You've just got to fish where they are. Don't set up on a whim, on a guess. Watercraft got me into the right position, looking at the colour of the water and narrowing it down, looking at where the sun was shining, and then finally we found the fish exactly where we expected them to be. So I've got a couple of rods out. We're going to look at the day as it comes at us. We're going to assess it as it comes, but I'm suspecting strongly that there's 2 things that are going to be required today, or one of 2 things. First could well be zigs. I think, you know, on that sun-blasted margin, a bit of black foam or something presented 2/3 off bottom could be effective on a day like today. We've got really high air pressure. It's nearly 1,030 millibars, I should say. So that could be a tactic. The other possible tactic that's playing in my mind is fishing on the bottom, but in the margins where the sun is shining. Literally going around with 2 rods, down the shelf, 10 boilies round each, and sitting back nice and quiet. So I'm going to make myself a coffee. I'm going to watch what's going on. As the day develops, we're going to choose probably one of those 2 tactics, do that for a few hours, see if we get a return for our efforts, and if we do or we don't, we'll start making plans for the night. What I should also just mention before I go, I've been drip feeding the area with a few more baits, probably 4 or 5 baits, literally 4 or 5 baits every 20 minutes. So not a lot, but just out with the throwing stick in that general vicinity where I saw the fish this morning and where I saw the fish yesterday afternoon. That should hopefully build the picture for the coming night. Let's see.